The first question is really easy. It's just our introductions. So what we're wondering is, who are you? What's your origin story? If you were a superhero, what's your origin story? How did you get into tech? So I can go first if that makes it easier. My name is Zachary. I'm a money coach at the University of Oklahoma. I'm not actually in the developer world just yet, but I've been learning to code for the last year, and I'm actively looking for positions now. So I got into tech when I redesigned the Money Coach website in 2021, right after the pandemic. If you're not familiar with what Money Coaches do, we essentially help students and their families figure out how they're going to afford OU. And the website was not conducive to that. It was really complicated, and financial aid is complicated enough. So I figured out how to go in and take the training to get permission and access to update it. And that ended up being a really big success. So I decided, okay, if I can do this through a no-code environment, surely I can figure out actual coding. And that's what kind of got me started, and then here I am. The past several months I've been really focusing on HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and then I'm going to move on to React here in the next couple of weeks. So that's me.
Nice.
Hannah, you're next on the list.
Me? Okay. Hi everyone. I got into coding seriously last year. I started coding using like Free Code Camp and Udemy course, and then I decided I wanted a bit more structure and I wanted to meet more people, so I did the OK Coders boot camp. And then last year in April, I got an internship, and at this company, I was able to develop into a full-time software developer position in September, and then as recently as a couple weeks ago, I started working here at Clever. So I'm working at Clever as a junior software developer now.
Wait, you're here? I thought you were Tailwind.
No, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's it, right? Did
Yeah,
I cover
that's it.
everything? Okay.
Yeah, Jonas.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Jonas. My path is a little bit different. I actually started off as an IT recruiter a couple of years ago, and what kind of got me into tech was obviously throughout doing that and filling roles and getting more familiar with the industry. I had a conversation with a candidate who told me they had just graduated from a cybersecurity boot camp. This is the first time I've heard of anything like this. But he told me basically didn't have to go through the full traditional computer science route, just kind of did this on the fly within 6 months and earned the certification, and now I'm looking to break into cybersecurity. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. And as time went on, I learned more and more about the industry, and I learned about OK Coders. So I ended up enrolling in that last year and actually graduated in the same cohort that Hannah was in. We both kind of got put through the ringer there, because boot camp, it is just that. It's drinking through a fire hose, so it's a lot of learning on the fly, but it was fun. And actually we graduated in September, and then in January, I ended up landing my first developer role for a small marketing firm here in OKC. Unfortunately, I got laid off just a couple months ago, so I'm back in the market right now, just trying to do some continued learning and kind of just getting more immersed in the community as a whole, which is what brings me here today.
Nice. Where are you learning right now?
Right now, I'm going through the CS50W, which is a continuation of the CS50X, but it's more leaned into web development than just like overall application development, things like that. So that's been fun. And it's weird to say that out loud because learning has not been fun for me so far. So it's a new challenge, and it's been just that.
Carrie?
Hi everyone. Well, I started off. Should I start off with where I started off in tech and all that?
It's up to you. So just tell us
About-
how did you get into tech? Kind of what you do now. Just who are you?
Who am I?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think I'm a little bit of a complicated individual. I have a diverse background, as maybe many UX designers may have, right? Because I'm a UX designer, but I have a background in graphic design, development. I did marketing for some time. Some of my background include instructional design. So I'm kind of diverse in a sense. So, but it helps in terms of my UX skills that I need. I started off in tech long ago, ages ago, And
So you're experienced.
yes, so
He's
I
the
would,
mentor on the panel.
yes, I'm the veteran of the
You can't
panel. Yeah, so I kind of say like I have a mixed background in terms of like development and design, because when I first started off, I did a course from the Caribbean, so I did a course in on the island of Saint Martin, and that was like for 1 semester. And I remember taking a vacation to Anguilla, and that's when I knew that individual, but that individual eventually became my unofficial mentor. And I went up to that individual and asked that individual, can you buy me 2 books, right? And those 2 books were Fireworks. That's a design program which is no longer there. That used to be one of the prototyping tools long before Adobe XD. And I also bought a book called the JavaScript Bible. So when I went back to St. Martin, I dropped out of the course, right? So I'm one of those who dropped out of school and decided I'm going to do it on my own. So if you think like you can't do it on your own sometimes, you can. So at that time, I didn't have a computer at home, right? So what I would do, I got a job at a print shop where I would help design the t-shirts and do the printing and so on. So what I would do when I go home, I would actually read those books and then go back into work and practice the things that I read from the Fireworks book and the JavaScript Bible. Yeah, so I got myself into tech, kind of a mixture of formal education, because I did that 1 semester of school, and then I learned on my own. I went into starting my own business. So I started a business called Elite Pro Creative. At that time, it was just Elite Pro. So we did a lot of web development and design in the Caribbean. I did a lot of tourism-related projects. I also worked on some government-related projects as well. And then one day, 2008, you had that great recession, or that financial thing that happened in the U.S., which greatly impacted all the tourism destination in the Caribbean. And I was like, okay, well, maybe it's time to formalize.
Yeah.
And that's how I'm here. And I worked at OU. I worked at Public Strategies. That's a company in Oklahoma City. I was the web interaction designer at Public Strategies. I was working at OU in 2 capacities, in terms of like one job was more development based and the other job was UX based.
Okay.
So yes. That's my whole background here.
Yeah, son, you got a ton of experience, man. I need to get my resume like yours. So
You could say that too.
We're gonna hop straight into some of the questions. So just for context, one of the reasons that we're doing the panel is because we have a mentorship form. I think it's already posted. If you join the mentoring channel in Slack and you're interested in finding a mentor, that's a great way to find one. If you're interested in being a mentor, that's a good way to get linked up with a mentee. But one of the things that we were noticing is that people don't necessarily know how the relationship is supposed to work. And so these questions are supposed to help everybody just kind of get on the same page and maybe get different ideas about what that looks like. So first question is, what makes a great mentor relationship, and what is mentorship? What does it look like for you? And anybody can answer this. I'm not going to do like a who goes first. It's whoever's comfortable.
So I would preface this by starting with that latter question, like what does mentorship look like to you? And this is something that's like really kind of hasn't been like communicated well enough, but at least like through Techlahoma, it's not necessarily like, hey, help me troubleshoot like my JavaScript code.
Yeah.
It's more along the lines of like, hey, how can I navigate this into like a career? How can I break in? What can you help me with to get a better understanding of? That way I can get into this and do this for a living. But as far as like what a great relationship looks like between a mentee and a mentor, it's about more than anything just maintaining not constant, but consistent communication.
Yeah.
One thing that I always consider when I'm reaching out to my mentors is, like, here is someone who's a very valuable resource. It's someone who does what I would like to do and what I want to do at a very high level. And they're kind enough to step out of their daily grind in their personal life and give some time back to, for some weird reason, help someone like me get a better understanding of everything. To me, mentors are kind of crazy in that way. So it's like, how can I be mindful and respectful of their time, but also maximize what I'm trying to get out of it? So for me, it's like not constant, but consistent communication. And just really doing just that, whether it's through Slack, just sending messages, hopping on huddles occasionally. I know some people like to meet together in person. I haven't had the opportunity to do that yet, but that's what it is to me more than anything else. It's just consistent communication, reaching out, checking in, like asking the right questions when necessary.
We have, just so you guys know, we have like a couple of questions. So when you're answering, don't feel rushed, but also just kind of keep in mind there's a couple more after it.
Okay.
I just want to add to that. I love everything that you said. I totally agree. And the reason I was asking everybody earlier about Spider-Man, if you don't know, there's a new movie. The animated movie is top-notch, highly recommend. The soundtrack, the visuals, the story, all of it. But also, the new game is coming out. The pre-orders start next Friday. The point that I'm making, I'm playing the first Miles Morales one over. And the relationship that Peter and Miles has is like what I imagine as far as mentorship, because at the beginning of the game, Miles accidentally lets Rhino out of his cage. He like destroys the city, he's destroying them all, the power gets shut down. And the whole time Peter is like, you're doing a great job. You're still going, we're gonna figure it out. And it's like, okay, but he's destroying the city. Are you sure he's doing a great job? Like, there's no power, things are on fire. I don't think this is what, a good job looks like. And to me, a mentor is someone who is encouraging you because you are still at it. Like, you're going, you haven't given up. And so they're acting as a guide, and they're helping you figure out like how to improve your mistakes or how to learn from your mistakes, but they're not like getting mad at you because you don't know what you're doing. That's the whole point of having a mentor. So I've been playing the game, and that really stuck out to me this week. I was like, I need to use that for the panel.
So to me, I believe like a mentor is like a kingmaker. That's how I see it, right? Because there's this movie, I think it's called The Last Kingdom on Netflix. And then there's this guy called Uhtred.
I've seen that. It's really good.
If you're a mentor out there, you should see yourself as an Uhtred.
Yeah.
Because what you're looking to do is actually be able to get this person from one point to the other. And one of the things that Uhtred wanted to do was to actually have this last kingdom, this kingdom which would eventually come like the United Kingdom, right? So most of the times, I see a mentor relationship as something that could, like, it has to have, if it's unofficial, and unofficial, well, I will explain what I mean by official and unofficial. So the official mentorship is one that you get at your workplace, right? So you get into your workplace and your boss pairs you up with someone, and that's like where you have, that person is developing you to one day take up a role, a better role, or be better at your job. The unofficial ones are like what we're doing right now, right? So, but the unofficial ones, I think there needs to be a development of that relationship, not just career, but in terms of individuals, like on a personal level, not where you're not talking about, the personal things at home, but like trying to get to know each other, because you are unable to make that king if you're unable to understand who that person is and what are their goals and how are you going to get them there, because we are all different individuals.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hannah, do you want to add anything?
I mean, I kind of agree with all of these. Yeah, I don't know. The only thing I would maybe add is like, you can have different kind of mentorship relationships. It doesn't always have to be someone that's like in a higher position than you, or you can have someone who's kind of on a similar journey than you. And for me, like, that's just like talking to each other, telling each other your problems and then helping each other out in that aspect. So
Yeah,
all great points. I think I agree with everyone.
yeah. I think that kind of leads us into our next question. So, how did you find your mentor? So, kind of going off of what Carrie was just saying of relationships can be different. They can be official. They can be unofficial. How did you find your mentor, and how has having them impacted your dev journey? Anybody?
I'll go first.
Yeah.
So I don't really have an official mentor. I basically have found my mentor. I have several mentors, I think, that people I consider my mentors. But basically, I found them when I started coding. I was like, I definitely need help. I don't know anything about the tech space or whatever. So I was like, I need help. I'm just going to message in the Techlahoma group. And then I had people message me, like direct message me asking, trying to help me. And then I would also direct message other people and just start to gain a relationship with certain people. Message you back and forth, or meeting at meetups and stuff like that, and getting advice like that. How has it impacted it's basically helped me get my jobs and helped me stay motivated to keep going. I think like they've been mentors, and the relationships I have in Techlahoma have been the most important thing, I think,
Yeah.
in my journey.
I agree. I think for me, so I have a bunch of people that I claim as my mentor, but I don't think that they know that.
Yeah.
So like if I'm asking you a bunch of questions, that probably means you're
Yeah.
not an official mentor.
Yeah.
But I do have an official one through the volunteer or the mentor form that we kind of mentioned earlier. And he's been really helpful because whenever I have questions about the industry, because like obviously, like I mentioned earlier, I'm coming from higher education, so I have no idea how the tech industry works. So just being able to ask somebody who's already in it, who's already been through the process of doing a career switch, like what does this look like? How does the hiring process work? How does networking work? What kinds of skills do people actually care about? It's good to have somebody to ask that rather than just Googling it and figuring it out on my own. So I don't usually go to him with like code problems because I feel like I can figure that stuff out myself. The stuff that I don't know is how to get the job, like how to get people to take me serious when I don't already have developer on my resume. So that's been super helpful with all the stuff I've been doing lately.
Yep, same.
Yeah, did you guys want to add anything or no?
Yeah. You wanna
If
go?
not, you're okay.
You go first.
Okay. And that's why I think like the mentorship thing is like when as a mentor you look at it as your kingmaker. And
Right.
I maybe I should not use that word because you're not really making a king, but you're making an individual, right? But with me, I found my mentor kind of unofficially. So I remember when as I said earlier, I bought those 2 books, right? And that person is basically in my family, but the more prominent person in our family was like, was a good business individual. And, we started working together. And from there, I realized that I had an unofficial mentor, right? And, started asking questions every time like I need to find out something, I will ask more questions, right?
Right.
And that person, it benefited me in terms of me becoming more business minded.
Right.
Because then I was like, okay, well, yes, I'm working, but it's really time to leave this job. And I remember the first time I decided I'm going to leave a job, that my HR manager looked at me and said, are you sure you want to leave the job? And I was like, yeah, I have something to do. And they're like, you're really going to leave the job? Like you're getting the monthly? And I'm like, yes, I do have something to do. And it worked out well because that unofficial mentor I had was always reassuring me that, okay, what you're doing is the best thing.
Right.
So it wasn't like in terms of teaching me, that individual knew no code, no graphic design. That person is a marketing genius, right?
Yeah.
So that's all they know, marketing, real estate. And at that time, I was just absorbing all the business knowledge that the individual provided me, right? And that just helped propel me into what I was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And did you want to add something? If you don't, then so.
Oh no, yeah, I'll definitely go. I was just letting everyone else go first. So far, like, you have a very cool story.
Yeah, you have a ton of experience. I'm like, okay,
I didn't know
Gary,
any
tell
of
us
this
all
about
your
Gary before
life.
this. So, one, it's like he's much older
like
than
you
I
have
was
to all this
anticipating. So, props to you. You have a very youthful look.
Yeah.
But no, definitely like all really cool points that you all made, like good different backgrounds that you all came from and everything like that. But for me, it was at least finding a mentor was a little bit more challenging for me because, like, one, I didn't even know that the mentoring channel existed on the Techlahoma Slack, but it is just that there's so many channels on there that like I'm learning about every day. But for me, like starting off with OK Coders, we had a number of mentors available. So it was like the instructors, and then we had other people that volunteered as well. So it was going to them throughout that helped me out a lot. And if anything, I wish I would have kind of leaned on them more. But then recently, you know, I signed up for one through the Techlahoma channel, and I mean, it was a pretty easy process. But as far as like the impact goes, like it is so much easier when you have a mentor, when you have a resource like that to lean on, because trying to do this stuff on your own, navigate the industry, learn the ins and outs of it, like just getting a basic understanding of it, it is super hard to do on your own.
Especially right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, even just don't even consider like trying to break into the industry. I'm talking about sitting down every day and first learning how to code.
Yeah.
That in and of itself is extremely challenging. And then on top of that, you have to learn, all right, there's this whole other game I have to play when it comes to just breaking in and getting my first role. So, I mean, having mentors, I mean, it's made the world of a difference because, again, for any single individual to try to do any one of those things on their own is asking a lot.
Yeah,
So,
make it easier on yourself.
Yeah.
Like lean into other people's experiences. Use other people's knowledge.
and that's what's so tough too, to like realize is like a lot of developers are either stubborn or can easily become stubborn because you're doing hard work on your own. I mean, you know, you're stealing other people's code and you're just copying and pasting here and there, but it's still like it's very hard. It's very challenging. So like being able to take that step back and just be like, no, I need help.
I need help. It's okay.
Sometimes it's tough, but it's necessary.
So what would you guys? There's a flip side to this. We have the pretty much same question for the second half. But what do you all feel like the main benefits of mentorship are for the mentee?
There's a lot.
There's a lot.
Countless.
Yeah. I will go first and say that for me the main benefit kind of goes like what I was saying earlier. If you're trying to get into tech, having a mentor gives you someone who can be a little bit more personalized to what you're looking for. So you could just come to an event like this and be like, hey, how did you get your job? How did you get your job? But if you have a mentor, they can sit down with you for maybe 30 minutes on Zoom, on Slack or whatever, and be more specific about this is how I did it. These are all the things. And I've done that with several people. So like I feel like I have a really good idea of what it takes to get in, even though I haven't actually been able to do it yet. So but I feel like that's like a main benefit for me is knowing how to get in.
Yeah, I think for mentee, like the mentor-mentee relationship is sometimes I feel like it could be a little bit one-sided because it's more of like the mentee like benefiting the most.
Yeah.
You know, but so prior
I didn't talk about that too.
yeah, prior to doing mentorship within the Techlahoma community, I mainly did like project-based mentorship. And I said that in a sense where what it does, it provides me an opportunity to not get burned out in terms of mentoring that individual and still providing that individual some kind of project that they can present going forward. And then that leaves me at a position where I can now refer you officially, even in terms of, let's say, a written letter, email, or on your reference. So that's what I did prior to that. So, but I would say to the mentees out there, just think of your mentor as that person who's going to help you get there quicker. You know, that person who's going to help you level up. So always try to take advantage not abuse, but take advantage of the situation,
Right.
right? So always, try your best to maybe get in touch. Some of us we're a little bit introverted, so it's kind of hard. Sometimes, so what I do, I try to understand the individual, and sometimes I may try to reach out because I know we haven't communicated for some time, but yeah, the mentees should always look at it as that's a big advantage because not everyone in the world have a mentor. And to get a mentor, sometimes to have a mentor to get a mentor can be very difficult. Yeah.
Y'all have 2 air conditioners here? Or is that the fridge?
I don't know.
I think it's the fridge.
What is that? Sorry. Okay.
No, that's right.
In the trash cans?
No, that's why we moved it over there. We moved it in front of it, so everything. Supposedly.
Do y'all want to add anything, or if not, it's totally okay.
I mean,
I don't want you to feel pressure to answer every single question.
that pretty much nails it.
Okay.
But I'll say, like, one of the big benefits too, and I think it kind of works on both ends, is, and it's going to sound weird, but it can often be like therapeutic for both you and your mentor.
Yeah.
To where it's like, for me, it's like I was having a discussion with one of my mentors, and it was something that I had like a lot of doubt on, and it was just like, is this a certain tool that we can trust? Like, it's just so weird the way things are right now. And they felt the exact same. They're like I've been doing this for a while, and it's something that I have a lot of uncertainty of as well. It's just kind of like, all right, that's cool knowing that there's someone that has all this experience that's been doing this for a while, and then there's someone that's like me that was just recently introduced to this. And it's like, no, we can share those same fears. Like, that's still something that's normal. So I would say, like, that's just an example of it can often be therapeutic on both ends.
So, just to add to Jonah's point, I think from the mentor point of view, if we look at it as we are adding another individual within our circle that's going to help us explore.
Right.
So let's say I know a lot of UX stuff, right? But if I have another person that I'm mentoring, and if I have a mentee who is now exploring on their own, and we have a strong relationship,
Yeah.
that mentee is going to come back and say, Kerry, do you know this is happening within the community?
Yeah.
Or do you know about this new concept? And now it's going to allow me to go ahead and research and find out what's going on. So sometimes you have that. To me, I feel like if you have a lot more mentees, eventually you will be able to know like the whole scope of everything that's going on around
Yeah.
within your field.
Yeah.
As a mentor, that's
Yeah,
what it is.
no, that's a really good point. If not, we'll move. Okay.
Let's do it.
So then, kind of like going more into what is the role of the mentee, and the reason, what this question is supposed to be more about is in the mentor-mentee relationship, what is the mentee supposed to be doing? Like when you say, I want a mentor, what are you supposed to be bringing to the table? Obviously the mentor, you know that what you're getting from the mentor. You're, getting their experience, their knowledge and whatever. But what are the mentees supposed to be doing, and how can they make the most of the relationship?
I would say you gotta, as the mentee, it's always beneficial to take the initiative with your mentor.
Yeah.
Really, not necessarily like, I want to say steer the conversation, but that's tough because when you're breaking into this, you don't know so much. So it's a lot of like just asking silly questions and not being afraid to do that. But I would say the role of the mentee is definitely to take the initiative and to be the one that's initiating the communication with your mentor. As far as like when you want to meet up, hop on a huddle, or just message them and things like that. Huddle, Google Meet, Zoom, whatever you want to do. But it's just like making those arrangements and just kind of, for lack of a better term, steering the conversation, while also being like very open to constructive criticism and just getting really uncomfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I think for me too, the other thing is, I think Kimberly asked this question in the mentoring channel the other day of how do you know when you're ready to have a mentor? And I feel like It's when you know what you want from the relationship. So I've been a mentor for college students, and one of the things that's always interesting is sometimes the student will want a mentor, but they don't know what they want from the relationship. So then we're just kind of sitting there, and it's like, okay, what did you want help with, or what do you want to get from the relationship? And they're like, well, I don't know. I just kind of wanted a mentor. And I'm like, okay, well, I need something to mentor you with or mentor you for. So
Yeah, have your goal ready, like your goals and your questions ready.
Yeah.
Like know what you, like you said, know what you want from it.
yeah, like knowing what you want from the relationship will give it purpose, kind of like what Jonas was saying too. So for me, like I mentioned earlier, just knowing that I'm trying to get a tech position, it may not happen immediately, but just they know that that's my ultimate goal. So all the questions that I come to them with, whether it's understanding the code concept or figuring out how to network with people or knowing what companies are out there, what people are looking for, it all fits under that underarching goal of I'm trying to get into tech. So for you, it could be like Carrie was saying, maybe it's a specific project that you're working on, and you just need some guidance on like they're really good at this specific language, and so they're helping you think through pair programming specific issues for that particular project. So knowing what you want from the relationship gives it some direction. Do you want to add anything?
It's pretty good.
We got plenty more questions. Don't worry. Hey, Ryan. Okay, so next question is, how do you strengthen your relationship with your mentor? I think you kind of talked about this earlier, like being the consistency, but like what other things can we do to, once we have the mentor, how do we maintain the relationship and keep it strong? What are some things that you all are already doing, people that you're unofficially, your mentor with?
That's tough because it's like
Yeah.
when you kind of step into I always consider like asking for help from a mentor, like that in and of itself is like, that takes a lot to do that. So as far as like strengthening the relationship with your mentor, for me it just falls back on, again, just like that consistent communication, because then that's showing them like, hey, they have the initiative, they have the drive, this person is going places, and your mentor they recognize that more often than you think. And I don't want to put anything out there, but some mentors are willing to use like really, how should I put this, help you go above and beyond in helping you out. And what I mean by that is like by being a reference for you, by possibly trying to set you up with the company that they're currently with or other connections that they have.
Yeah.
So that's why I always fall back on just not constant but consistent communication.
Yeah.
And again, it's just always coming prepared with the right questions.
Mhm.
And that's tough to figure out. Like there is really no right or wrong question, but it's really more about like asking searching for the right answers, if that makes sense. It's really weird to think about because I recently learned something about the way you go about asking questions, and I'm really going off the rails here, but it's something along the lines of like, no, what do I really want to know and how can I word this question better to get the answer that I'm looking for? So it's kind of coming up with those questions in your head and then fine-tuning them to try to get that response that you're looking for. So
Can you give us an example?
it's tough. It's really, so like most of the examples that I've used this for have been for interviews.
Okay.
So, and this is a completely different path we're going down now, so just get ready. So I always approach the interview process with like strong preparation and
Okay.
knowing like kind of generic questions to get a better understanding of like whatever company I'm interviewing with.
Okay.
But here recently I kind of thought, all right, often in times you go through an interview process and all of the employers are giving you the same answer. We have these tremendous values. We have this great culture. We do all of these things. We invest in our employees and things like that. And it's like, oh, well, everyone says that.
Mhm.
And there's plenty of places around here that say that, but yet it's an awful working environment. So I really applied that by thinking, all right, how can I actually know if they're being honest about their values and what their culture is really like?
Okay.
So I would kind of just revise the questions, these generic questions that I had, and I was like, all right, which one of these are going to indicate red flags?
Mm-hmm.
So it would often in times be like, what are some of the expectations for this position within the first 6 months?
Mm-hmm.
And often in time, the answer is, we want you to come in and hit the ground running and help us get these projects knocked out, because we have more work than we know what to do with.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a red flag. That means you're going to come in,
Yeah.
you might learn, someone might sit down and show you our tech stack, but by about 10 days in, you're going to get tickets assigned, and we want you to get on these sprints and knock them out within these 2 weeks. And it's like, hey, what is going on? So I'm hoping this makes sense, but like there's questions that you can ask to kind of verify or just confirm some of the things that you're looking for.
Okay.
That sounds all really messy. I promise it makes more sense in my own head when I'm telling it to myself.
Okay.
But that's just kind of how one way I used it is ask these employers those questions. That way I can get a better indication of what it's actually like, and depending on their answer, pry away at that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it sounds like asking, so like if you're speaking with your mentor, you're asking questions that are going to help you get to maybe not the initial answer that you're looking for, but like the deeper answer. So it may have layers to it, is what it sounds like. So you're asking questions, and then from that question you get an answer, okay, dig a little bit deeper, and then from that answer dig a little bit deeper. Sounds like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a lot of like, I'm trying to come up with a good code analogy, and it's just not.
It's
there
okay.
right
Well,
now.
look, you don't,
Yeah.
don't, you.
But I'll leave it at this.
Okay.
The less you think about it, the more it makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. Anybody else want to add something?
That was pretty good.
Okay.
Covered
That
it.
made
Yeah.
some sense,
That
right?
makes sense to me.
Okay.
I think too, for me, the other thing that I do when I try to strengthen my relationship, like you were saying earlier, the consistency of like asking questions, asking good questions. And when I say a good question is like I'm stuck on something in particular. I have tried to figure it out, because you're going to be the whole point of developing is that you're a problem solver, or at least you're trying to become one. So I have tried to figure it out. It's been X amount of hours or days. I still have not figured it out. At this point, I'm getting frustrated, and I need some help. That's usually for me like the main thing whenever I'm trying to like connect with my mentor. And sometimes it's not even problem related. It could be just like, hey, I noticed that you had something going on in your professional life. How's that going? Like checking in with them. So it can be a two-way street of sometimes you're coming to them with something you're stuck on. Sometimes you're just checking in to see how they're doing, because they're a person too. They have stuff going on in their lives too. All right. We've got about 5 minutes left before we do the break. So let's see. We might skip through some of these to see which one. Let's do this one. What's one of the most meaningful moments that you've had with your mentor? Anna, you look like you got something and you want to share it.
Well, no, like this, I saw this one before. This one's kind of hard for me because I don't have an official mentor. But like, I guess with the most meaningful moments for me with my mentors are whenever I just when they like just encourage me and they tell me like I'm doing a good job, especially when I'm like in a low place and I just think I'm like doing so badly and I'm like, I'm so stupid, can I handle all this, blah, 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 you know, this, everything we say to ourselves. But, and they're just like, no, you're doing a good job. I can see you, you know, making the effort, you know, doing this and this and this. And look at all your accomplishments, look how you grow and stuff like that.
Yeah.
For me, it's like,
It's
okay,
that
it's like I need the
reassurance,
outside perspective.
The perspective, that's what I was
Yeah,
going to say
like
too.
someone who's outside but can see what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's also good, going back to the last one, to like stay in consistent communication and keeping your mentor updated with what you're doing and how you're feeling and stuff like that.
Yeah, because how are they
And then you get that feedback. That's the most meaningful for me.
Yeah, how are they going to support you if they don't know how you're doing?
Exactly. Yeah, like I honestly just had to become like super honest and open with how I'm feeling, and that's really helped me.
Yeah. Do you guys want to say something or no?
No, it's just like those moments of reassurance for me more than
Yeah.
anything. Because again, like it's tough. Doing this for a living is tough. Breaking in is tough. So whenever things are tough and it's just you don't feel like you're getting anywhere, and just having those conversations, those check-ins, and then being like, no, you're going about everything the right way.
Yeah.
Keep doing what you're doing. It just takes time. So definitely like those reassuring moments have been the most meaningful for me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm the type of person, I'm a little bit weird. I don't necessarily like to be encouraged because I'm so independent to the point that I'm like, if I need encouragement, I'm doing something wrong. But I would prefer, for me, the most meaningful moments are when I'm being related to. So it's not just like you're telling me, oh, you're doing a great job, but you're not saying like, I've been through this and this is how I need you to say, this is something that I've gone through that's very similar to what you're going through, and this is how I got through it. So then I can not just feel better,
Yeah.
but I can see like what to do about it. I don't necessarily always care for just like the make me feel better because I feel like crap right now. I want to know like how do I get out?
I agree with that, by the way. It's not, people aren't just being like, oh, you're doing so well, and I'm like, I don't know, it's not always just
Yeah,
that.
like
It's
I need
what-
the evidence.
Yeah.
I need proof.
It's like you said, like they're there also to be honest with you and like critique, like
Mhm.
constructively critique you and stuff like that.
Yeah.
For,
So go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say for me, I can't pinpoint any moment per se because like I feel like there's so many moments that I kind of like will remember like once in a while. I just have some advice. So what I do as someone who sometimes in the role of a mentee, I see that I need to be trainable or coachable. So like in sports, they would be like, okay, this individual is not coachable. We cannot coach him, right? So I think I need to be coachable as, let's say if I'm a mentee, I need to be coachable. I need to be a sponge. I need to not hold feel like anything would offend me. I need to be able to, I know there are things like a mentor should not say, but then we also have to understand that individual is trying to give us a perspective that sometimes we did not look at.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and as a mentor, what I try to do is try not to take offense to a lot of the ways that the mentee might approach me.
Right.
So sometimes, I have some mentees, they're bold, straight to the point. Kerry, this is, and, I have to say, okay, Kerry, this individual is really trying to find, that answer. And going back to a sports analogy, I remember when Kobe Bryant passed and, like Michael Jordan was giving a speech and he said like, one of the things he admired most of Kobe Bryant was the ability to always just text him at random times asking him those questions, those
Yeah.
important questions, right?
Yeah.
And he may not reply immediately, but later on he replied. But that I think most mentors kind of appreciate when you ask them those questions that will make them think, make them feel like, okay, I may have to get back to you in a while with that answer.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's a really good point. I think too, yeah, one of my mentors, he does the same thing. I think he checks in like every Wednesday with his mentees. So that way it's a little bit more structured as far as like, okay, on Wednesday he's gonna come and ask you, how are you doing? What are you
Better be
working on?
prepared.
Yeah. Well, he keeps it low key, but it's good to know like it's coming on Wednesday. I should have an update. But I think having those moments is really helpful because obviously that makes the relationship stronger. So then when they're trying to help you in the future, they kind of know like, okay, they're having one of those little moments that they might need a little bit more support.